All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahusha, Bahashim Rukakudash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing this truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. This is your fellow servant, Rukayer from the GMS Orlando camp, coming at you with another impromptu lesson. All right, now tonight, I want to get into this video that was done by Tone Talks, and it's entitled, "Are You Seeing All the Awful Economic Signs? People are using GoFundMe to beg for groceries." All right, and I want to dive into this video a little bit because he makes a few good points that all tie into prophecy. You know, one of the points that he was making in this video was the fact that America is now in the late stages of capitalism, all right, in which they call the official term late stage capitalism, which I have the definition here on Google. All right, but America in itself is in its late stages. All right, America, Babylon the Great, is circling the drain as we speak. And all of these different economic shortcomings are a telltale sign of that. You know, and it's all according to prophecy. All right, the Lord foretold of these things, you know, from the foundation, from times before. You know, and now he's given us the office here in these latter days as his prophets to continue to watch for these signs, to watch for the signs, all right, that were prophesied to happen in the ancient times. But this is what late stage capitalism is on Google, the AI overview. It says, late stage capitalism is a broad, often ironic term describing the absurdities and inequities and excesses of modern capitalism, from extreme wealth gaps and corporate power to commodifying social issues like feminist shirts sold by fast fashion, and relentless consumerism. And I wanted to give the definition of a couple of these things, you know, because Esau likes to talk over your head. But really, all of these things that he's throwing out are very simple concepts. You know, so it says, a broad, often ironic term describing absurdities, excesses of modern capitalism from extreme wealth gaps. All right, and now what we are experiencing today is an even broader wealth gap than the time, you know, that our fathers seen. All right, the wealth gap now here in so-called 2025 going into 2026 is bigger than it's ever been in American history. And when you look it up, all right, I typed in how extreme is the wealth gap in America. All right, the AI overview said the wealth gap in America is extremely wide and worsening, with the top 1%, in which when you look at different articles, you know, it now is ranging from the top 1, you know, to say the top 1 to 5%. But, you know, that's subjective. It says holding a massive share around 30 to 35% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom 50% holds very little, around 2.5 to 4%, a disparity that has grown significantly since the 1980s, making the U.S. a leader in wealth inequality among developing nations. All right, and this is a very strategic wealth inequality. The reason why the elites have engineered this wealth gap the way it is so that the power and the resources stay within the hands of a few. And so that really over time, all of the resource and all of the money continues to be accumulated by those very few families, in which we understand to be the chief houses of Amalek. All right, your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, your DuPonts, your Gettys, the Oppenheimers. All right, those who have been continually mismanaging and misusing the resources. All right, these are the people who have engineered this current wealth gap that continues to widen and worsen. You know, and this is a very strategic wealth gap that's taking place. Even now with the destruction of the middle class. All right, it's only widening that wealth gap and increasing the wealth and the resources that are accumulated by the elites. All right, but it says, back to late stage capitalism, it says extreme wealth gaps and corporate power. All right, and what we're starting to see an influx in is corporations amassing more and more power within society. All right, really within these different technocrats. All right, now these different companies are amassing power where you had power that was held at one point in time within different families. Now corporations are taking a rise in today's society. All right, beginning with these different technocrats, your Elon Musk, your Bill Gates, and so on and so forth. All right, and different people who run seemingly the internet. All right, they're taking a rise now. It says to commodify social issues like feminist shirts sold by fast fashion and relentless consumerism. All right, and when I looked up what relentless consumerism is, all right, it says relentless consumerism is the unending drive to buy and own more goods. All right, and really what the elite have done is set a barrier on ownership, in which this guy Tone Talks goes into. All right, the elites have set a barrier on ownership to where even the modern American, the average American has no means to own anything due to that wealth disparity and the constant cost of living continually being driven up. The elite have set a barrier on ownership, and this is all strategic. And now these things are being brought out to light because Inquisition is now being made into the counsels of the ungodly. All right, this is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1 and verse 9. It says, "For inquisition shall be made into the counsels of the ungodly, and the sound of his words shall come unto the Lord for the manifestation of his wicked deeds." Okay, and now inquisition is being made from the prophets. All right, now the prophets, since the prophets have been given the spirit to inquire about certain matters, now the world is starting to change their mind frame. It's really beautiful what we're witnessing around us. Because as the prophets, have been given the vision, now the world is starting to see piece by piece, little by little. The world is going to see on a whole when Yahushua returns. But right now, the world is starting to see piece by piece exactly what, the prophets have been talking about, starting with our elders, apostles, a great millstone on down. But it says, the unending drive to buy and own more goods, fueled by advertising, social media pressure like influencer culture and fast fashion, and economic models demanding constant growth, leading to personal debt. In which we see that all the time. You got these niggas on Instagram who promote this lavish lifestyle in which a lot of these different rappers and celebrities, well-to-do jakes are living the same way, the bottom level jakes are, just with a different pay grade. They still living check to check. They still are, most of them are house poor. Most of them are in personal debt, due to this lavish luxury lifestyle that Esau Edom has pushed on our people. A lot of them live the same lifestyle. It says, clutter, environmental strain, and a cycle of temporary satisfaction followed by dissatisfaction, often called hyper-consumerism. All right, and we live in a hyper-consumerism society to where people buy things. You buy a Louis bag, you might buy some Ferragamo shoes or Ferragamo belt. Y'all decked out in goddamn Gucci, Versace, for a moment. But after that moment is over, you're filled with dissatisfaction. Because not only is your bank account low, now you're stressing about the bills that that are continuously coming in every month. If you have kids, you're stressed about, how you're going to provide for your kids now. Even though you have a new belt or you have some new, accessories, your whole life has been thrown into turmoil as a result. Oh my God, Salakia, man. This is beautiful, man. This is exactly the time and point that we're living in today. And I'm going to get this in Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. And the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because there are few. And those that look out of the windows are be darkened." And now we're in the time where these different economic forecasters, these financial advisors, and so on and so forth, Now their eyes are darkened because they no longer see a future in America, Babylon the Great. The economic collapse of America, Babylon the Great is inevitable. And now everyone is starting to see it. All right? The grinding is starting to cease. Jobs are being made obsolete by AI and technology. The keepers of the house are trembling because they don't see another way out of this financial bind, this economic bind. And it's only getting worse as the time passes by. 2026 is going to yield a whole nother level of hell for the average American. Thus saith the Lord. But I'm actually gonna let this guy get into it. I'm 46 minutes into the video, but I'm gonna play a couple of minutes. I'm gonna try not to stop it. But this guy gets into a couple of good points. Lord Wounds is edifying and he will let us.
We have a group of sort of a category of fundraising we call essentials, which are things like rent, utility bills, car payments, sort of your basic things you need to get through life. That category has gone up significantly in the last 3 years in practically all our markets because affordability is an issue in essentially all OECD economies.
So people starting GoFundMe campaigns just to get food. And I don't mean to sound flippant. I just think natural disaster, GoFundMe. I don't necessarily think, wow, I need groceries.
Yes, in some cases, very sadly, that is happening.
How's everybody doing today? This is Attorney Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks, looking to have a discussion today. I'm looking forward to a great discussion today about the economic truths that are coming out. I've talked to you since the better part of 2015 about what was coming. We're here now, and I don't know how many of us as Americans are really being honest about the calamity that we're in. The truths around $50,000 average transaction price for cars with 9% interest. The truths around how your families are built on leverage and debt. The truths around how we're in late stage capitalism. And we're going to go through much of that today. Thank you so much.
He said the families are built on leverage and debt. Oh my God. And that couldn't be more true. That couldn't be more true. The elites have done a great job in not only destroying the nuclear family, but making it impossible, for them to for us to rebuild it. And it's all through the Spirit of the Lord, because at the end of the day, our families are going to be builded stronger under Yahweh Shai's rule, But to see the state of this economy is beautiful. A lot of these niggas that walking around here today with this high and mighty attitude are really in debt, are really losing right alongside with Esau. And like he said, that might be the title of this video. Affordability is no longer a reality.
For everybody tuning in, this is going to be a show for everyone out there living in America, struggling with these families and asking the question, are you seeing the awful economic signs? This is not a time for you to be able to say, I want to have a family and I don't want to watch the news because it's too much tragedy. You better know what's going on. You owe that to your kids, to your husband, to your wife. You owe that to yourself. So the idea that you're going to be poor in the country and not know what's going on and you have that luxury, okay, well, rent will be due soon. And I want to talk about some of the things we're seeing. 310-388-3499 to hear from you. I want to talk about and ask the question. I want to hear from the family people out there, from the business owners. I had one guy come in the chat of my Twitter and say that he works in the car market and ain't nobody buying cars. Well, who gonna buy a $54,000 regular car? Okay, when I say regular, I'm talking about a Mazda. Okay, well, ain't no $50,000 Mazdas. Go look it up. Ain't no in tone. In the chat, I see y'all falling in there. I want to have the discussion today. Please support this channel, subscribe, donate, and share. Again, that's how I bring this channel.
And nobody's able to afford these things because Egypt in itself is failing. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 14. The Lord have mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in the work thereof. I mean, it's like they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. All right, and Egypt right now is in a very heavy spirit of error. They've erred in their economics. They've erred in their financial advisories. All right, they've erred in their philosophies, in their mentality, in their service, and their so-called righteousness. All right, Egypt has erred in general on all facets. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that error, that continual error from Esau, Edom. All right, this is the Lord showing us that error does not last forever. Error has an end date, and the end date for Babylon the Great's error is coming speedily. But I'm gonna play at least like 10 more minutes of this video. Trying
You
to
can
stop it.
call in 310-388-3499. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from the people running these families on air. Month to month, you don't even have savings, but you got a full American family. Got no inheritance coming. Got literally no retirement saved. And you might not even have health care. And you are out here and not dealing with the economic signs because you saying it's too much tragedy in the media. Are you seeing all the awful economic signs? Now, this is a full list, but what triggered me to do this show was this quote. The GoFundMe CEO comes out and he says the economy is so bad that more of his customers are crowdfunding just to get groceries.
We have a group of sort of a category of fundraising we call essentials, which are things like rent, utility bills, car payments, sort of your basic things you need to get through life. That category has gone up significantly in the last 3 years in practically all our markets because affordability is an issue in essentially all OECD economies.
So people starting GoFundMe campaigns just to get food, and I don't mean to sound flippant. I just think natural disaster, GoFundMe. I don't necessarily think, wow, I need groceries.
Yes, in some cases, very sadly, that is happening. Yeah, we're seeing that more and more. How do we create more help? How do we help people get more help? We measure that in the total amount of money that people donate. But I think one thing that maybe unless you've been involved in a GoFundMe fundraiser, you don't realize is the money is the easy way to measure it. What actually happens when you have a fundraiser and you say have 50 people support you, the moral and emotional support that people derive from that is immense.
So the GoFundMe CEO says that this space that was initially set up for projects like, starting up or building a device of some sort that you thought of that people can invest in has moved into a space where people are putting up GoFundMes to beg and ask for groceries because the government isn't serving them well. If this ain't late stage capitalism, I don't know what is. In the chat, how many people know what late stage capitalism is? So often in this space, what's happening is that we have a lot of lower educated people that are either selling classes or selling grifts instead of getting on the ground and talking about some political concepts that we're living through right now. And many of you might not even know. So you think you're going to class your way out of this in the middle of late stage capitalism. Okay, somebody said not sure. Well, we're going to do a lesson today after late stage capitalism and giving to build little items and projects and new devices being moved into a space where people are begging for groceries through late stage capitalism. Before I get into that, through this service, the actual article that goes with that video is GoFundMe CEO just said the quiet needs in a recent interview on Opening Bid Unfiltered podcast with Brian Sozi. He described a notable rise in campaigns for essentials like groceries, a shift from only emergencies toward everyday survival. So we often saw GoFundMe used during fires or earthquakes or tornadoes when people needed help after a calamity. Well, now the calamity is the economy that is putting pressure on the American family. and people want to use GoFundMe that way. Basic things you need to get through life have gone up significantly in the last 3 years, and particularly all our markets. Catagon said that evolution underscores.
And the reason why basic necessities are no longer affordable is because the wicked are in power. Let me see. Hold on. Let me type it in. Go some Proverbs. Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. All right. And the reason why people are mourning now more so than ever, and unable to afford basic necessities is because the wicked are in power. All right. They've made life itself unsustainable.
Of course, the new economic reality for many Americans, persistent inflation, high borrowing costs, and thin finance cushions are forcing many households to triage bills. So we're describing paying bills and dealing with bills like triage on the battlefield. Juggle debt and seek help in new ways. Catagon's observation that more people are asking strangers to help pay for staples marks a sobering turn for a platform historically associated with medical bills, disaster relief, and community projects. When the cost of food stretches paychecks past the breaking point, crowdfunding is one of the things that people are using. The credit crunch at the kitchen table. Household balance sheets have been whipsawed by stubbornly high prices. Oh, I'm sorry. Crowdfunding morphed from altruism to a parallel safety net. Household balance sheets have been whipsawed by stubbornly high prices on necessities, as well as steeper borrowing costs on credit cards and auto loans. Fortune's reporting has highlighted rising delinquency rates among younger borrowers. I think I seen an article recently, and I shared it on my Twitter, where the average Gen Z has a 650 FICO, somewhere around that. How many of y'all got Gen Zs in your home and don't know what their credit score is? You got them living in your home and you don't know what's going on in their life. Waving goodbye as they go drive Uber and use Klarna to buy things they can't afford and shouldn't have no way. Here we go. I'm just talking to you because people got their head in the sand. Yeah, we are financing our eggs and turkey sausage and orange juice with Klarna. Okay. Some people will be like, what's Klarna? Well, I did a show on it. I'm not going to go into detail. I went through the contract that they give out, and everybody frames it as no interest. Okay, well, be late. Be late on it. Let them sell that company off to somebody else or sell that debt to somebody else. Go look at whether you getting your credit card points. Oh, you don't get no points because the points are what Klarna get. They get yo give. The money that they would pay to get you in the door, that would discount the price, is going to Klarna to get you through the door, so you paying more than everybody else. They got to live a life of luxury, then came the fine print. Buy now, pay later has built a delirious new culture of consumption and trapped users in a vortex of debt. This came out on the New York Times this past weekend, well after my show. And they're talking about this, and how many people in the chat got to see the New York Magazine article that came out, written by I think one of the lead editors. And what she talked about is she talked about how they got to live a life of luxury, then came the fine print. That was the purpose of that. Now I don't know how you got there, but the hope is that you can get that up. Barely covered the rent on her teacup-sized apartment, but then on the checkout page, a little line of text under the total amount caught her attention. Pay in 4 interest-free installments with the firm. Let me pause right a second. So I've talked to you. Not only is this on these luxury goods, but you have people on YouTube selling financial advice and using the same Afterpay and Affirm and Klarna to installment pay you financial literacy. Go look at Boyce's stuff.
I'm gonna skip through a little bit. You know, I just want to get.
Well, I wanted to ask you,
It's no money they have, and they get 4%, so they losing 6. Then you try to do something like stocks, and you don't have enough information, so you don't know nobody that knows somebody that know when to pull out. So you get to a point where money is disappearing in our hands. Then people say, go buy gold. Then you got to buy gold. You forget the transaction fee, then the liquidation fee, because you actually need that money. It's just getting really hard to have money and to keep money at a certain level. Hey,
Hey, and that's the way it was designed to be. All right, it's all according to prophecy, man. All right, it's all according to prophecy. You know, and the economic state of America is going to continue to get worse. You know, I wanted to play a couple of more minutes, you know, but we'll be here, you know, all day. If you want to watch the rest of the video for yourself, you know, he brings out some very good points. You know, some Tone Talks. This is the title of the video.
Finally, now they have created a super consumer for only a small cost upfront. Felt like stumbling upon it. Those people that don't want to hear me, make sure you look at that lady last name, because we spend a lot of time, like Boyce did, talking about black people and Nikes. That is an American problem because we were built to be consumers, not a black problem. Fundamentally, now they have created a super consumer, not out of just any subsection of America. They've created the super consumer out of the middle part of America, out of the lower part of America, out of people that don't have enough to pay their rent. They're going to make sure you're able to buy it. They're going to give you a 72-month loan on the car. They're going to give you an 84-month loan if you can't get that payment. If they're going all the way to 96 months, but the warranty for the car is only 36 months.
Hey, and he gets to a lot more information. You know, all going into, you know, the economic collapse of Babylon, man. You know, it's inevitable. At this point, affordability is no longer a reality.